Hey gang, I want to talk about control because in the end, you really cannot control anything. You can't control shit. And I didn't realize how much I tried to control everything in my life until my therapist Loki called me out for it. And she was like, yeah, have you realized that you get into this pattern of constantly trying to control things? Like, the main thing is mostly my eating, which correlates to my body image, right? Because I'm always trying to control how my body looks or how much I weigh or things like that. But I think that's a manifestation of the fact that I just need control in my life, because the same pattern shows up in other places, like academics or my career for one. I am pre-med, and so a lot of my mindset is like, what can I do so that I can guaranteed admission into med school? And I realized though, like, I was basically trying to control this outcome that in reality is kind of uncontrollable because it's not my decision in the end, you know? And I can do all of these different things to try to influence that decision, but it's not guaranteed because I'm not the one making it. And so, and it's kind of the same with a lot of other things. So, like, for example, I try to control my social situation and my social life by making sure I'm surrounded by good people who care about me and support me. But the truth is, you don't have control over how other people treat you or what happens in other people's lives that make them treat you differently. And you can't force people to do things for you. Like, it's just not. If you really think about it, nothing is in your control. And the counter argument to that is like, what about all those like big social movements? Like, if people thought that they couldn't, change how the government worked, then none of these social movements would have happened and there would have been no change at all. And I feel like that's a valid argument, but it's not exactly the same. So these people, I feel like social movements, they were trying to change things, yes, but there was still a mindset of like, it's not something they could control because they're not the ones making the laws, right? Like, there's a lot of pressure that they put on them, but they can't, no matter how much pressure you apply, it's not necessarily the same thing as control, if that makes sense. And then another counter argument is the whole thing of discipline. It's like, oh, if you don't control things, then you're undisciplined and blah, blah, blah. Like, if you don't control, for example, if you don't control your food, then you will get fat and you will die of diabetes, which is kind of the mindset that I've been having this whole time. But I feel like there's a better way to reframe that than control. People always talk about control, but what if it was something more internal? What if we shifted the mindset from not controlling how much we eat, but more so listening to our own body and just appreciating our health? Like, what if we did that? Because, okay, in the end, right, like, I'm thinking about, like, all those health nuts on the internet that are like, oh my god, like, do this, do that, like, supplements this, like, supplements that, eat this, eat that, like, make sure you're, like, all those things, there's, like, a million different things on the internet, all telling you different things, and it's just, like, it's super overwhelming because you're like, okay, I want to be the healthiest person that I can be, so what am I supposed to do, right? But I think that even if you did everything correctly, even if you're super healthy, blah, 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 I have seen so many cases where people just randomly got cancer. Okay, I know cancer is, like, low-key random, but I recently read this article about this woman who literally ran, like, 5 miles every day. She swims like miles every day, and she got cancer. She got leukemia, which is crazy because you could be doing everything right, and there's still so many things that are out of your control. So why don't you? And I'm not saying, like, I'm not telling you to stop exercising. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, you shouldn't exercise to try to control your future. You should exercise to make yourself happy and to move better and all that stuff. But in the end, like, I feel like you have to understand, I have to understand that things cannot be controlled. Most things, like, if not all things, cannot be controlled. And that's honestly, like, that is so hard for me to come to terms with, because I am the kind of person who will plan everything. I will plan every single thing on this planet. I have, like, plans for this, plans for that, like, backup plans, etc. For one of my clubs in college, I'm the event coordinator, and I make sure I try to cover every single base. I try to control everything, and as soon as one thing goes out of line, I actually low-key lose my mind, which is not good. But I think being event coordinator actually did teach me a lot of things about sometimes you just got to let go of control. And you kind of realize that when you drop the ropes, you realize you've been playing a game of tug of war that you just didn't want to play. And sometimes you don't even realize you're playing tug of war. But so it's hard, but it's really hard to just let go of that, because it's just like, damn, like, if I do let go, it's like you fall forward, right? You let go of the rope in tug of war, you fall forward. But once you fall, you're like, you're free. You are literally free. And at that point, I think that's when you can truly start building the life that you want, because you're free, you know? You don't have to control anything, and you think, like, I don't have to control this or that. I'm just gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna do what makes me feel good in the moment. And, you know, I'm gonna take these small steps towards my goal. And I will set goals, but it's not really like a controlling thing. It's more just like, oh, I have this goal in mind, so I'm gonna reach it. It's just like a direction rather than controlling an outcome. Like, if that makes sense. I think having goals, I think having deadlines for goals are also just not, it's just not it. Unless you are actually, like, competing in something, I think there shouldn't be a deadline for a goal. I think that, you know, that causes a lot of unnecessary stress, and you're still, even without having an end time in mind, you still make progress. I think, like, you can still make a little bit of progress every day, and I think that's better than burning yourself out. And I'm thinking of this right now in terms of my fitness goals as well as my career goals, because I think, especially career, because I'm thinking, originally my plan was I was going to graduate early, a year early, and then take a gap year and then enter med school. But now I'm taking 4 years, and I plan to take a gap year. But now I'm thinking maybe I should take 2 gap years. And that, like, stressed me out, because I would see everyone else, like, forging ahead, and I felt so behind. And that made me feel really worthless. So I tried to control, like, every single aspect of my life. Like, I try to control, I don't know. But because it feels so out of control, I just get really stressed out. But the truth is, if I have this goal in mind, of being a doctor, right? I'm about to get there at some point, right? I'm about to get there at some point, And maybe that's really privileged of me to say that I have the capability to take time. And not everyone has that capability, and I understand that. But for me, at least, like, I can slow down. I don't have to control everything all at once. And the final thing that I realized that I try to control is how other people perceive me. Which is why I am just so focused on appearance, and not just appearance, but also skills. Because I'm like, oh, if I'm like really skillful, then people will think I'm cool. And same thing, like, oh, if I present myself in cool clothing, if I'm like a certain aesthetic, then that's when I can control what people think of me. But you can't control what people think of you, and it is what it is. So TLDR is that you can't control anything, and that's okay. And I'm trying to learn how to be okay with that. Bye, guys.